Well, when the Tea Party started its political rise, the clear focus was opposing big government, specifically the spending, the deficit, and taxes. And social issues took a back seat. But that didn't stop Christians from joining and strengthening this new movement. As David Brody explains, the result was a new type of activist called, in his words, Teavangelicals.
They travel the country calling for a better America, a return to Judeo-Christian principles, and economic plans for a deficit-free future. Meet the Teavangelicals, conservative Christians who are part of the Tea Party, or at least agree with their agenda. They come in all shapes and sizes, from the farm, town square, and even Capitol Hill.
Well, I absolutely am, because I believe that we are taxed enough already. Government shouldn't spend more money than what it takes in. We should follow the Constitution, and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, so I think that makes me a Teavangelical.
Some have great stories to tell. Kellen Guida went from a non-believing Tea Party leader in New York to a born-again Christian after hearing about Jesus from other Tea Party members during a political retreat.
It was loud, boisterous, praying and talking about our faith all the time. And it was a new experience for me, and it was an overwhelming experience for me, and I just loved it.
Studies show that conservative Christians comprise at least half, if not more, of the party. So why have they signed up?
I really think a lot of the motivation behind these Tea Party crowds is a spiritual component. I think it's very akin to the Great Awakening before the American Revolution.
Well, our Washington reporter, David Brody, is here with us today, and he's written a book with the intriguing title, The Teavangelicals. David, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Pat. Great to be here. Great to be here.
Hey, this book, how come you put it together? You've noticed this, you've gone around the country, you've seen these people, and what exactly is taking place in our politics?
Well, I remember going to these rallies and saying, well, wait a minute, they're opening these rallies in prayer, and they're invoking Jesus' name, and I said, wait a minute here. There's got to be a term for this. I mean, you know, because they're evangelicals, these are conservative Christians, and I thought, well, maybe they're a Christian Tea Partier, and I said, that sounds too radical, or a Tea Party Christian, but I came up with Teavangelical because that's exactly what's going on. There are evangelicals, at least half the movement, if not more, are conservative Christians that are powering this movement. The truth of the matter is, Pat, without evangelicals, without conservative Christians in the Tea Party, you're looking at maybe half a movement. The libertarians cannot do it by themselves, and that's a big part of what I lay out in the book.
Well, the libertarians have been pretty much anti-religious, but are they joining in? They're all there together now?
They are. As a matter of fact, if you look at the breakdown within the Tea Party, about 60% of Tea Partiers are social conservatives. About 40% or so are libertarians. So there is a breaking of bread between both the libertarians and the evangelical Christians. So it's a fascinating dance to watch because, yes, there's not agreement on all of the issues for sure. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of times that the libertarians talk about they want to return to constitutionally limited government. Well, evangelicals hear that and go, well, so do we, and we call it a return to Judeo-Christian principles. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And so that's one main reason why they're breaking bread.
Has Romney bought into this, or are they on the edges and his campaign's going in a parallel but different course?
Well, no, they have not reached out, obviously, to the Tea Party or the evangelicals as much in the primary, which is interesting. You would think in a Republican primary, that's when you reach out to this group.
Sure.
It turns out that they're now going to be reaching out to them more in the general election because they know that they need evangelicals, Teavangelicals, to show up in spades. You know, Ralph Reed's organization, the Faith and Freedom Coalition, which is what I detail in the book, they're a Teavangelical type organization because they're using Tea Party activists that are evangelicals, and they're going around signing up, as you know, back from the Christian Coalition days and others, that they're going up and signing they're trying to get 13 million cell phones and emails of evangelical Christians, and they actually have now secured 13 million cell phones and evangelicals. And they're not, by the way, what they're doing is they're distributing voter guides, not in churches so much anymore. They're sending them right to their text messages and their emails, and they can see the open rate. They can see what they're actually reading.
They also won't have any strictures of the IRS, I mean, for, you know, the 501(c). they won't have any of those problems. They can just do what they want to do.
Well, that's right. And so this has been a major factor in what's going to happen. The truth of the matter is, for Romney, as much as we talk about the independent vote, which is extremely important, if Teavangelicals don't show up in 2012, forget about it for Romney. He cannot be the John McCain of 2012. Mm-hmm. If that happens, it's going to be a problem.
In days gone by, they used to account for about 30% of the vote. I mean, the evangelicals per se, they'd count them up, and they were, you know, as reliable on the conservative side as the labor union was on the left. What is this group going to bring? What percentage do you think of the vote?
Well, I can tell you that privately, what the Romney campaign and some other activists and other major leaders in this movement think is that if Romney can get north of 75% of evangelicals to show up, mm-hmm. That's going to be a winning combination for them.
Sure.
McCain had 73% in 2008. But it's not just so much about the percentage as it is, as you know, about the raw vote total. In other words, if 3 million more evangelicals, Teavangelicals, mm-hmm. show up at the polls, possibly as high as 7 million, but if 3 million show up, it's game, set, match. I mean, it will be over at that point.
You think this is going to change America? Is there a possibility that this might do it? We've been working at it for so many years.
I think it's going to be a long process, like anything that you want to have systemic change go on. For sure, it's going to be a long process. Having said that, there are some challenges, and one of them, Pat, is that whether or not they can make the message mainstream exactly. You know, whether or not they can say to folks that don't buy into this Teavangelical movement and say, look, we have some smart ideas, and they're common sense. Term limits, you know, you read the bill, you know, just go on and on. So the question is, can they win the argument on public policy at the end of the day? That's what we'll watch for.
Last question. What about women? I understand Romney hasn't been scoring too well with women, but maybe he's picking up now. What do you think?
Well, his numbers have definitely upticked. They're about 13 percentage points more in the last couple months or so. We detailed in the book all about the women movement, if you will. I call them the real Tea Party housewives of Atlanta. They are Jenny Beth Martin and Amy Kramer. We've heard about these folks. They run these big Tea Party Express and Tea Party Patriot groups. Well, both of them, even though they call themselves Tea Party members, they're actually conservative Christian women mm-hmm. that are running these organizations. And those are just two of many different examples of women who say, you know what, when women see a problem, they say, hey, we need to fix it, we need to figure out how to do it, and they're taking charge.
David, I appreciate you and appreciate the work you're doing, and you've got quite a media tour on this book, The Teavangelicals, the new group that may well change America. So good stuff. You're going to be on Hannity? You're going to be on, you know, Good Morning America? What else?
Yeah, I mean, Hannity, let's see, Morning Joe, Fox and Friends. My mom has endorsed the book, which is always a good sign.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, you tell her she's a smart lady, and I'm glad she is. David, appreciate it. Best wishes, buddy.
Thank you so much.
David Brody, who does a fantastic job as our correspondent in Washington. Well, don't forget you can check out David's blog. It's called The Brody File on CBNnews.com. And his weekly TV broadcast, which is also called The Brody File, and it's on CBNnews.com. So you'll be watching more about that as this book goes out on, I guess it's now for sale on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold.